You're listening to a DM podcast.
We would like to acknowledge and give thanks to the traditional owners of the land we record this podcast on, the Yagara and Turrbal people,
and their continued connection to the land and waterways on which we meet.
Hello and welcome to Sportish, where we look at life through the lens of sport. My name is Georgie Trickett, and we're so excited that little Archie has arrived. He is an absolute little treasure. You can go and check out photos of Archie on Libby's Instagram page. He is beautiful, and Libby is loving newborn phase, is particularly loving not being pregnant, which I really relate to. She has done it 5 times, and I think she feels like she's done it enough. Anyway, on today's episode, we have 2 of the founders from an amazing organisation that came onto our radar sometime last year in 2024. The organisation is called Kicks for Kids, and it's all about making sport more accessible for kids, not just in Australia, but all around the world, by providing the most basic of things, sporting equipment. The 2 people you're going to hear from today, Mac and Macy, are absolutely beautiful. They do this as part of a broader program of work that they're doing with uni and part-time jobs. This is their side hustle, and it's such a pleasure to talk to people whose side hustle is something that's making such an impact on the world. I think you'll love them. Go and follow them on their Instagram page. You can find them at their website. I'll put all of those details in the show notes, and just be delighted by listening to 2 people doing cool things in the world.
Mac and Macy, thank you so much for joining us on Sportish today. Mac, I wanted to start with you first because you are someone who's obviously always been really passionate about sport. What was it that attracted you to sport in the first place?
I suppose Kelvin Grove State College soccer was what we'd play at lunchtime. And I think that was how I first remember getting involved. I remember my mum came to pick me up from school one day and I was there trying to play soccer. And when I was in prep or grade 1 with some of the grade 4s or grade 5s, and that was mum's first memory of me playing soccer and realizing I was going to be a very avid soccer player. But I think that's where it all started.
And at what point, Mac, did you realize that the experience you were having in the schoolyard was not the experience that other kids were having around the world?
When I was 7 years old, I started playing soccer at Brisbane City Football Club. And I had a teammate by the name of Omar. And so Omar and I, we were best friends. And back then I thought we had as much in common as you possibly could have. We were both 7 years old. We both loved the Socceroos. Soccer was our life. But I think what I didn't fully grasp then, which I do now, was that Omar was actually a refugee. So his family had fled the Taliban's persecution just 2 years before then. And it was when I saw footage of kids in Afghanistan on TV, there was some coverage of the conflict, I realized that the kids, or I pointed out to my mum more so that the kids didn't have any soccer balls to play with. And so I think that was when I first, had that realization that not everyone's as fortunate as we are here in Australia to grow up playing sport with access to sport.
How old are you at this point?
So at this point, I'm 7 years old.
And so what did you do next as a 7-year-old?
So after pointing out to my mum that these kids in Afghanistan didn't look like they had any sporting equipment to play with, she pretty much said to me, if you want to try and do something about it, I'm happy to help you. I was in under 7s, but I was 9 years old. And so with all the naivety of a 9-year-old, I wrote a letter to the Australian Minister for Defence asking if the Aussie soldiers would hand out soccer balls to kids in Afghanistan. And he actually got back to me and he said, if you can raise the money, I will make sure that Aussie soldiers hand out your soccer balls to kids in Afghanistan. And sure enough, we raised the money and Aussie soldiers ended up handing out 100 soccer balls to kids in Tarrancott. And that was kind of where this all started.
Fast forward 10 years later and you have now created this incredible foundation called Kick for Kids. Macy, what's your role with Kick for Kids and how did you get pulled into this?
Well, it's so funny. It's kind of a funny story, but Mac was forming like an unreal team of people. Our team is just like the kindest, most genuine, intelligent people you ever meet. And it's so awesome that I get to work with them and call them my friends. And I actually met Mac at our friend's 21st birthday and I'd just gotten back from Papua New Guinea. And when I was in Papua New Guinea, I was doing the Kokoda Trails. So I did 96 kilometers for 9 days with Legacy Australia. And it genuinely was like a life-changing experience. And I did it with my brother, who's 2 years younger than me. And he carried footballs in his backpack the whole 96-kilometer journey. And each village we went to, he gave like a football everywhere he went. And just the joy of giving a kid a football is like, there's no feeling quite like it. Like, it's just the most incredible thing ever. And I've never felt so much happiness. And these kids were the happiest people I'd ever met, and they had absolutely nothing. And so I came back from 9 days with no electricity, no technology, nothing, just spending it with quality people in the middle of the jungle in Papua New Guinea. And I was talking to Mac about this life-changing experience and what I had done. And he started telling me about him and what he had done and what he wanted to do. And then, the rest was history. And I've never met such a passionate person like Mac. And his ideas are so big. And he was like, Macy, do you want to come on the journey? And I was like, absolutely, I would love to.
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
Macy, it's so interesting what you say about PNG. I did the Kokoda track a bit longer time ago than you, about 25 years ago now. And I had the same incredible realization that these beautiful, generous, hospitable people had nothing to their names that we would value typically in the Western society, but they were just so welcoming of us and so thrilled for us to give them the shirts we didn't want to carry any further. We took medicines and they were gratefully received. Little things made a huge difference. And it's such a good reminder of how powerful it can be to look outside your own backyard to get some perspective of what's really important. Matt, can you tell us a bit of what Kick for Kids is all about then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think boiled down, the mission is still the same as it was 10 years ago when we started. We want to help more disadvantaged kids access sports where financial or geographical barriers might otherwise prevent them. So, I think historically a lot of the work that we've done has been overseas in countries like Afghanistan or Syria. But I think these days there's more of a focus on what we can actually do at home here in Australia, because when we stop to have a think about the direction that we kind of wanted to take our work, there's so much that we can be doing for kids at home here in our own backyard.
Macy, what are you seeing here in Australia that makes Kick for Kids think they need to focus here and do something about the sports issues here?
Well, I think looking at the whole of Australia. So I was just overseas for a year last year and I traveled heaps and went to 25 different countries and was so lucky. And I went to Morocco and Northern Africa. And I think, yes, there's so many places that need it overseas, but also coming back home to Australia. I'm originally from North Queensland, and going home, you'd see that there's people just as needy here in our own country as much as people need it overseas. And I think sometimes we're a bit naive in our own country that we think everything's okay because we're stuck in our little bubble, but there's people that are just as needy. So that's why I think Kicks for Kids is doing such an amazing thing, and the work they've already done within our country is just the beginning, really.
So who are you guys partnering with in Australia? Who are you looking to connect with, and who do you want to know about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the work that we've done has been with Rotary International, because the way that we operate is we really work with these third parties who are, on the ground in the communities that we're looking to help. And that's for two main reasons. The first is that often if we have volunteers on the ground who are happy to go out and purchase the soccer balls in the local community, it means that we're not spending donor money on transport costs. But the second half of that equation is that the people in these communities often have, the most expertise to know which groups and communities and kids and schools are going to benefit from our work the most. So in the past, it has been Rotary, and Rotary is also helping with some of our projects at home right now, but we're definitely on the lookout for, new partners, people who do have the connections here in Australia to access some of those, harder to reach communities where kids might not have the same opportunity to access sports like we do so easily in more metropolitan regions. So, that's definitely something that we're keeping an eye out for.
When we're talking sports in these regional communities, what sports are we talking about? What sports do you want to bring to rural and remote parts of Australia?
Well, I think historically, being a soccer player myself, the focus was very much on soccer balls. But these days, it's really much more of an active kind of conversation with the, groups that we're looking to support to understand, what equipment or, sporting equipment is going to best get more kids involved, particularly, girls. So we will have conversations, with schools. Recently, we worked with Milpera State School for refugee and immigrant students here in Brisbane, in Chelmer. And when we asked what sporting equipment was going to get the most girls involved, they came back to us and said that it was going to be badminton sets. And so badminton wasn't typically a part of the, equipment packages that we typically supply. But when we have that conversation, it's very much a two-way conversation about what equipment is actually going to be most fit for purpose, what's going to get the most people and girls in particular involved.
Just going back to the comment you made about Rotary, what is a program like this? Why is it of interest to an organisation like Rotary? Why were they so keen to come on board and be partners? How does it align with what they're doing?
I think naturally we went to Rotary because my grandfather, he was a Rotarian, and my mum was lucky enough to be a Rotary exchange student when she was growing up. And so we did have some connections there. But, Rotary is a community organisation. The aim is to support their local community, and the benefits of, access to sport for kids is well documented because it is, a lot deeper than people might think. There are benefits in terms of community engagement and academic performance, even youth crime, those sort of things. So it is a lot deeper than just helping more kids play sport. It also extends to bettering the welfare of communities on a more general level.
I mean, that just rings so true to what Libby and I are always talking about in terms of the fact that sport is just really this gateway into so many other things. And if you create pathways in sport and you make sport something that everybody can participate in, you have a real impact on community and health. That these are two really important things that change the dynamics of family structures. They change the dynamics of how communities are operating. And you guys should be commended because you're absolutely facilitating that in some really vulnerable communities, both here in Australia and overseas.
On that, Georgie, I also think another incredibly interesting part of that equation, which I think sometimes flies under the radar, is that, as well documented as the benefits for the kids and the communities are, one message which continues to seep through is the benefit for the volunteers. So, in the past, we've worked with the Australian Federal Police, the Australian Defence Force, and, when these Australian peacekeepers are in Papua New Guinea to, serve the community, while they might not be able to speak the same language as the children in the communities that they're serving, if they're able to rock up with a bag of soccer balls, we've heard people say that you can have a conversation without speaking the same language. And so I think that's a beautiful part of the equation as well.
I mean, that's such an incredible point. Sport is an international language, and you are helping those people connect with those communities. And also the feeling we have when we get to give is just incredible. It's one of the best things you can do. And I'm always so conscious that when you do volunteering and you're thanked for it, it's almost like, don't tell anybody, but it's actually great for, like, I'm getting a lot out of it. It's like this guilty secret we all have.
No, absolutely.
So I have to ask, because you're so involved in the sports ecosystem in quite a different way, but you're still connected with sports. What sports are you two still playing?
So at the moment, I was just overseas. I do lots of dancing. I love doing so many different things. I think moving my body makes me so happy. And if I've spent all day inside, I know that I'm not my true self. I love being outside. I love working as a team with other people. And so I play lots of social sports. And growing up, I did lots of swimming and surf lifesaving and touch football. And still to this day, doing all of that stuff. I was just skiing in Austria and did my ACL. So I've recently just bought a...
No.
I know, but I'm now wearing some Lycra. Doing anything, any sort of movement, I think makes such a big difference mentally, physically, emotionally, I think. And so it's sad that some people around the world don't have that same thing that we do. We take it for granted that every day we could just go outside and play and chuck a footy. Like all my friends, every Sunday we go down and we just chuck a footy. And some people, we take that for granted because some people just don't have that luxury. So yeah, that's what I do.
What about you, Mac?
I played a lot of soccer right up until under 20s. I was playing a lot of soccer. And then when university started, I think I made the pivot to much more social sports. So I think in my time at university, I played social mixed soccer, almost 10 seasons of touch, mixed touch, social mixed netball as well. So still very involved in sport, but definitely at a much more social level, enjoying it just as much, if not more though.
Libby and I often talk about, in those teenage years, there's this real focus on competition, and then you get to university and you get out of school and all of a sudden these great social sports structures re-emerge. So I wouldn't feel guilty about that. That's actually an excellent result that you've transitioned out of competitive soccer into these amazing mixed and social teams. This is what we want for everybody. I think the other thing that's really important to talk to everybody about is that you guys run Kicks for Kids while also being at university, while also having part-time jobs, while also trying to intern and start your careers. Tell us about how that balance works.
I mean, there definitely was a point, around the start of university when, I realized the kind of opportunity that we had to take Kicks for Kids in a cool direction. And I very much knew that to do that, we'd need a team. And I think being lucky enough to have all these lovely mates from university jump on board has meant that we can work together to navigate some of those difficulties, because it definitely is, Macy, like she mentioned, has been overseas for a year. One of our team members is writing a book in France right now. Our team members have been in and out of across Sydney and Brisbane. So it definitely has been very much a team effort trying to pull everything together.
But just adding on to what Mac is saying is also, I find doing things when you're passionate about it is so easy. And so it's so awesome when we all come together and we're all in one room. You just can't stop beaming. You're so much smiling's happening and everyone's just so excited, because it's just something so inspiring about being in a room with people that are so passionate. And even though I remember one time we were all in a room together and I'm pretty sure we all had 500 exams, but it didn't matter, because I think when you are so passionate about something, it doesn't matter. And it's easy to balance. You'll always make it work.
Well, you guys are changing the world while doing a whole host of other things. And I think what really hits me is that the impact you're having is so significant, and the way you're all working together and the way you're looking to make change is really powerful. And you've given out what I think it's 4,000 or nearly 5,000 pieces of equipment to kids all around the world. That is not a small number. And to have done that off your own bat, starting from scratch, a team of 6 uni kids getting that done. It's an incredible effort, and I can only hope more people find out about the great work you do. And Libby and I are totally behind you and can't wait to see where you go.
You wouldn't believe it. At the point in time that I sent Macy a message asking if she would be happy to come on board and have a conversation, she was listening to a Libby Trickett podcast.
Yeah.
No way!
I think everything happens for a reason. I'm the biggest believer in that. And it was the funniest thing ever. I was just walking, finished work, just going along Paddington, and I'm 50 minutes into an Imperfects podcast with Libby Trickett in it. I always talk about the Imperfects a lot because it's a big reason. I read the Resilience Project book in 2019, and it's a big reason as to why my whole mind shift change. Anyways, I was going back on old ones and I started listening to Libby Trickett's one. I was 50 minutes in. Max sent me a message and said, hey, do you want to do a podcast with the Tricketts? And I was like, you're joking me. You're actually joking me. And I had to call my mum and I was like, Mum, you wouldn't believe it. And she was like, came up in my Facebook memories 10 years ago today, you were swimming in Townsville. And then Libby Trickett came in and signed your swimming cap. And I was just like, no way. This is just a full circle moment.
Libby Trickett came to Kelvin Grove State College when I was in grade 3 and I got to hold her gold medal as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you know, whenever we go and speak to kids and schools and adults for that matter, Libby will bring a medal along and it gets passed around. People take photos with it. It's so powerful for people
to
be able to touch and feel an Olympic medal and listen to those Olympic stories, because we all feel like we're a part of it, even though we weren't at the pool or, we certainly didn't do this training to get there.
Yeah. No.
They're part of us. We feel like this ownership over it. And so when the Olympians step into the room and they talk about their stories and they hold their medals, it's a really powerful moment. I absolutely understand. And I think I'm so lucky to be able to be around Live and Talk Olympics with her, because it's such an interesting environment that the Olympics bring about and the stories that come through from that sporting event.
Yeah.
I'm so in awe of what you guys are doing and doing it while trying to like do internships and uni, and it's a lot of work that you're doing, and I don't think that should be underestimated by anyone.
Thank you, George.